My name is Gary Cartwright. I'm the publisher and editor of EU Today. Very privileged to be here this evening at the Press Club Brussels, one of the most important venues for discussion actually in this centre of the European Union. And I'm here with actually a very good friend of mine, Jamil Maqsood, who is a Kashmiri gentleman who has been in Brussels for many, many years. He is politically active. But he is also known in this city as being one of the most prominent human rights campaigners, particularly in the issue of his own home country, which is Kashmir, which is a divided nation. It's been divided since the partition of India after British withdrawal in the 1940s, subsequent to the Second World War, and it has been troubled ever since. Jamil, always a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to ask, first of all, could you just introduce yourself and maybe say a little bit about who you are and maybe a few words about your party?
Thank you very much, Mr. Gary Cartwright, for inviting me to this very important discussion. Basically, I hail from Pakistani administrated Kashmir, which is known, prominently known as Azad Jammu and Kashmir. It is widely politically, socially, culturally, economically, and constitutionally administered by Pakistan, and so far as my political beliefs are concerned, the United Kashmir People's National Party is striving for a united Jammu and Kashmir, and it is the first ever party that also given a map of United States of Jammu and Kashmir with regard to 8 different regions, and also proposed that these regions should be given equal constitutional status in the future of Jammu and Kashmir state.
One question about your party, UK PNP. You know, we talk a lot about politics, you
Yes.
and I, because we're both very passionate about this subject. Now, your idea of a united Kashmir, it would be a socialist Kashmir. Now, I myself am a very conservative person, but I find that despite your socialism, my conservatism, we do generally tend to find ourselves in agreement on everything.
Yes, indeed.
So the question is not the difference between conservatism and socialism. The question is something else, isn't it? It's something that's imposed upon us.
Yes,
Yeah?
of course, of course. Actually, every state and every society has its own requirements and its own flaws and its own needs and requirements, you know. And so we believe that the social democracy can provide better opportunities for all the people of our region. That's why we are striving for a social democratic state and a secular democratic structure, constitutionally, politically, socially, and economically.
I think that you mentioned secularism there, and I think this is a very important thing because I'm also aware of another party which is very prominent and actually very active here in Belgium, which is the Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front. And now this is a more, I would say, a more right-wing conservative organisation. It might be less secular, but they also believe in a kind of independence, but it's a different state that you envisage.
Yes.
But I know that you yourself, you have friends within that community. They speak very highly of you, and they in the same time you speak highly of them. I witnesses. So as individuals, you don't have differences. It's only a difference in how you see the future of a free and independent Kashmir.
Basically, where are the differences? The differences are maybe not in the ideology, but in methodology, in strategy, how we will attain that destination. So the problem with regard to JKLF is that the JKLF was established away from the region. It was established in Birmingham. It was established in United Kingdom. And then they opened their main office in Rawalpindi, which is garrison city of Pakistan. And then they launched a militant struggle, militant movement only in Kashmir Valley. So our major difference with the JKLF is that while they took military support, financial support from Pakistani military under the guidance of Operation Topak, it was not indigenous movement. And that militancy has actually disregarded the rights movement of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, and they created a big divide between all the ethnic, religious, and linguistic groups in Jammu and Kashmir. That is the fundamental problem. That is the fundamental difference.
I want to ask you about something, particularly about how Kashmir is divided, because we talk about Indian occupied Kashmir, we talk about Pakistani occupied Kashmir, and now you're from the Pakistani occupied territories. And I know that whilst you are very much an advocate of human rights and also an advocate of social democracy, you are very much opposed to the Pakistani occupation. Could you explain why that is?
Yes, because look, the things are very much clear under 3rd June Partition Plan and British Independence Act. Under that act, the rulers of the different princely states, which were approximately 564, were given a final say to decide about the future status of their nations or of their princely states. So that was violated by the Pakistani side. The ruler of Jammu and Kashmir asked Pakistan to sign a standstill agreement on 12th of August, 2 days before, and it was happily agreed that a standstill shall be enforced between the government of Jammu and Kashmir and the government of Pakistan, which was going to establish 2-3 days later. But then a tribal-backed Pakistani military operation, it was Operation Gulmarg. It was launched against our state, and a small and a weaker nation was divided. So we say that when the things were taken to the UN Security Council by the government of India, the UN established certain stipulations for Pakistan and also for India. But Pakistan was first asked to withdraw its military and tribesmen who entered into the state for the purpose of war, and that never happened.
Yep.
The basic problem is that.
I've studied this, and there's a lot of discussion about why the calls for a plebiscite, for a referendum, never happened. And I'm going to be honest and say to you that having spoken to many Pakistani politicians, they blame India. But the reality is that the first step was the withdrawal of Pakistani troops.
Yes, indeed.
That is a simple fact of life. And whilst we all want to see a peace there, we've got to kind of lay the blame at the door of Pakistan there somewhat. But, when it comes to conflict, when it comes to war, no one is innocent. Let us be frank. And I am aware that there have been some problems, some abuses, human rights abuses in Indian occupied Kashmir as well. Would you comment on this?
Yes, we have to see. The India came into Jammu and Kashmir under a legal agreement. It is known as Treaty of Accession, signed by our ruler, Maharaja Hari Singh, on 26th of October 1947. And from 1947 until 1986, we have to record the human rights violations. So the human rights violations are the direct consequence of a Pakistani-backed militancy. And that militancy occurred in an urban area. So when the militants start targeting innocent people, ethnic groups, Pandits and others, then of course there will be a collateral damage. And that is the case of Kashmir Valley. And that is the case of Jammu as well, because many Sikh, many other people were also targeted by Pakistani-backed Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed.
This is very true, and also it is the case that after partition, one of the first major atrocities that occurred was the Bangladeshi genocide. And you and I, we've discussed this many times, and we've discussed this with very senior politicians. Although it's not much discussed these days, the dreadful genocide in Bangladesh, which of course was a kind of cross-border thing, because Bangladesh is away to the east of Pakistan, so they crossed through Indian territory in order to attack and to kill. We don't even know how many people, but we've seen the images. And this was one of the, well, if not the most dreadful of the post-partition genocides.
Yeah, that's true.
And there is no question whatsoever that this is laid at the door of the then Pakistan, the new Pakistani government. I want to talk about the new Pakistan government. We know that under Imran Khan, that great cricketer, who I admired when I was a young lad, under Imran Khan we saw such things as the blasphemy laws, and under those blasphemy laws we have seen persecution of anybody who is not a Muslim.
Yes.
And to me that is not what Islam is about. I'm not a Muslim myself, but Imran Khan has overseen this. Well, Imran Khan is no longer the leader in Pakistan. Do you think that we might see something better, something new from Pakistan under the new leadership?
Actually, when we talk about Pakistan, we have to see how Pakistan functions politically, economically, and constitutionally, democratically, or regionally or internationally. So the ruling elite did not change their course of actions. They are following the same path which was before the creation of Bangladesh. That's why Bangladesh was separated, or Bangladesh got freedom from Western Pakistan or Western part of Pakistan. So, so far Imran Khan is concerned because his eloquence in English language, he is very fluent in language. He has been studying and playing cricket and moving around the world. So he has as he explained that he has good knowledge of the Western democracy, but his actions were contrary to the democratic norms and values. So the democracy is inclusiveness, it is tolerance, it is having coexistence and living together with your opposition, with your other political parties, with other fraternities. But in case of Pakistan, and especially during approximately 4 years in power, Imran Khan act contrary to what he said in public life, in press, in media, and to the Western community.
A politician acting contrary to what he said is not a great surprise. We know that in even the most, the soundest of democracies, we know that this happens. I mean, again, it's something that we've discussed at some length in the period that we've known each other. One thing which is never discussed when we talk about, the Pakistani administered area, we talk about the Indian administered area, but nobody ever talks about China, because I just did some research, and at the moment there are 110,000 Chinese troops in Pakistani occupied Kashmir, and that's just the soldiers. That's the soldiers.
Yes.
When we talk about what's going on, and I am aware of the fact that in Pakistan-controlled Kashmir, the Chinese have been building dams and they've been diverting rivers because, as we know, China is short of water, critically short of drinking water. So basically, they're stealing Kashmir's natural resources, but nobody talks about China. What is this? Is somebody afraid? Is it the, we have expressions which are not so politically correct about this, but is there something that nobody wants to talk about? I never hear China.
Our party has a very critical point of view with regard to Chinese intervention into Jammu Kashmir. In fact, we start talking since China start building China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is the flagship of BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. So since then, and I think it is right from 2009 when they started this, and we held a seminar in Antwerp that the conflict of Jammu and Kashmir and Chinese design in the region, and it was the whole day session, and we comprehensively described, elaborated, and discussed the Chinese role in post, you can say, the decentralization of Soviet Union. So China emerged itself as a regional power with regard to its productivity and other improvements in its own economy. But with regard to Jammu and Kashmir, of course you can say that many organizations are hesitant to talk about China, because they think that at one end there is India, on the other hand is Pakistan, and so on the third end it is China, which is intruding in Jammu Kashmir from Ladakh, and not only from Ladakh, but Pakistan also handed over a very strategically important area of Jammu Kashmir. It is known as Shaksgam Valley. It is approximately 5,000 square mile on 8th of March 1963 under Sino-Pakistan agreement. So we are also encircled by China, and now China has started diverting rivers, river Neelam Jhelum, under Neelam Jhelum Hydropower project, as you have mentioned, and they are also stealing up the natural resources, not only in Muzaffarabad but also in Gilgit-Baltistan, which is strategically very, very important, because from Wakhan corridor it can provide an alternative trade route. So China is trying to consolidate its power also in Gilgit-Baltistan, and they are taking the advantage of weakening social and economical and political system in Pakistan. So the Pakistan is totally into the lap of China, Beijing now.
There's evidence in the last 2 weeks of China supplying military equipment into disputed territories in Kashmir. There was uncovered a supply of Chinese hand grenades.
Yes, of course.
Within the last 2
yeah,
weeks.
They are there, and from since Pakistan was taken out from Financial Action Task Force, so it is Chinese policy to ask Pakistan to incarcerate the first year of those proscribed organizations like LET and Jaish-e-Mohammed, like Hafiz Saeed. But Mr. Masood Azhar, who is second to Hafiz Saeed in Jaish-e-Mohammed, he is on the run, and no one knows about his whereabouts. So the second and third year leadership was there in few areas of Pakistan administered Kashmir, like in Rawalakot, like in Bagh, and like in Kotli, and in Mirpur. So they are openly holding public meetings and asking people to get ready to fight against India. So again, they want to wage a jihad, a holy war against the people in Jammu and Kashmir. Basically, they will go to Indian administered Kashmir and they will indiscriminately kill our people, whether they are Muslims or non-Muslims. They don't care. They only want the dead bodies and bloodshed and chaos in their society.
In amongst all of this chaos and carnage, and it's difficult to imagine that in the 21st century we are even talking about such things, but we are talking about such things. We're sitting here now about 150 meters away from the European Commission,
Yes.
from the European External Action Service.
Yes.
Just across the road from where we are is the
Council of Europe.
Council of Europe.
Yeah.
European Council.
Yeah.
Council of Europe is in Strasbourg.
Yeah.
Council of Europe, European
yes.
Council, two different things.
Yes.
Deliberately confusing, I always think. But they're just across the road, and just a stone's throw is the European Economic and Social Committee.
Yes.
And then beyond that is the European Parliament.
Indeed.
All of this within two minutes walk of where we are at the moment. If you were to be able to address, Jamil, any or all of those groups of the European Union institutions, what would you ask them to do? If you were asked them to do one thing now to resolve this situation, one thing, what would you ask them?
Yes, thank you very much. This is the most pertinent question, and it needs to be addressed accordingly. First and the foremost need of our region is peace. And all those organizations which are covertly operating under different names, different flags, different platforms, they should really bend. Not only in papers, not only in speeches, but practically they should bend. And Pakistan should ask to soften the border for the people of Jammu and Kashmir so that they can interact with each other, because of the inflation in Pakistan, it's economical meltdown. The people in both peripheries of Pakistan are suffering immensely. So now the people are demanding that there are less prices in Jammu, there are less prices in very close to the next village, next shopping place in Indian administered Kashmir. For instance, a gas cylinder that cost 6,000 or 3,000 in Muzaffarabad, that cost 600. So it is 10 times bigger. So our need is the peace, conducivity, harmony, and softness of the borders. That is only possible when terrorist organization will be banned, and all those who are active or involved will be provided alternative jobs. Because when they are unemployed, anyone can use them, whether it is China or someone else. Because if the person can only operate a weapon, his economy is linked with the weapon. So to de-weaponize him, they should be sent back to the public life and to be provided jobs so that they can earn and to live a life.
We have a lot of problems in Europe at the moment with civil unrest, and a lot of it tends to come from those cities. And when I talk about Britain, for example, I'm thinking about Leicester and London. And a lot of these problems tend to come from the Islamic community. I grew up around Muslims. I grew up around Indians and around Pakistanis, and I didn't see any difference between the Indian kids and the Pakistani kids. But now some sort of difference has come about, and Islamophobia has become a big problem, certainly in London, in my hometown. Do you think that the government of Pakistan, the regime in Pakistan, is giving Islam a bad name?
Actually, there are many Islamic scholars who denounce that the faith has nothing to do with the rule. Yesterday I was watching a young Pakistani scholar who is living in the United States, and he graduated from Medina University having Arabic knowledge, and he was sounding very reasonable that those who plead, those who advocate that Islam has a political, social, cultural system, it is wrong. It is very wrong approach. And because from where they derive this philosophy, it is also centuries old, from Ibn Taymiyyah, who were advocating that a crude form of the initial Islam should be enforced. But now we are in 21st century. We cannot say that whatever was the model of economy or politics or governance in the state of Medina in 6th or 7th century AD, it can be implemented in post-modern societies. We have internet, we have mobiles, we have satellites, we have international space stations, we have submarines, we have atom bomb, we have invented so many things that were hardly thinkable in that society. So we have this problem, and this problem can only be solved with regard to today's issues. And Pakistan as a state and the Pakistani diaspora has played that vital role elsewhere in Europe and also in the United States, that we are superiors and we have the right to rule, and we shall definitely conquer and defeat all the people in this world, in this universe, and finally we shall establish an international caliphate. So that's the problem.
Jamil, I want to thank you for coming along to the press club this evening and talking to EU Today. As I mentioned, we've known each other for a few years. I first met you when I was working in the European Parliament, and you were there lobbying for your party, and you've always been giving this message of peace, solidarity,
coexistence.
I have always valued your friendship, your
much.
advice, and I want to sincerely thank you for coming along here to be at this the Brussels Press Club, which is, I would say, the heart of democracy here.
Thank you very much.
And I look forward to us making some progress.
Indeed.
It's been a pleasure.
We have to work together in order to bring a positive change, a healthy change, not only in a particular region, but into the whole world.
Well, I am absolutely confident, Jamil, that within our lifetimes we will win this battle.
Indeed.
For peace.
Yes, indeed. We are determined to attain that destination.
We'll get there.
For the well-being of our people, for the well-being of entire humanity.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.